Hi there, welcome back. This is Code with SDM, and today we are going to build a full stack application which is called the expense tracking application. So our application is built on top of Tailwind stack, means we are building it with the combination of Laravel, Livewire, Alpine.js, and Tailwind CSS. So we are going to go deep on each of step on how you can build this application, and the application have the following powerful features. So basically we have one interactive dashboard which have like real-time statistics, some beautiful charts, and a way of designing or visualizing your spending pattern. Also, we have a way of managing our budgets. Then we are going to see on how you can categorize your budget and expenses. Means you will use something like categories, tags, and something like that. But also we have a way of managing the recurring expenses, which will be set up automatic and will be created according to the schedule that you build. But also the system have the real-time update feature, means you don't need to refresh the pages. So Livewire gives you that feature behind the scene. So we will see on how to utilize it. And out of that, the application have more features, but also the application is fully responsive, means you can use it on any type of device. So if it's a mobile phone or a laptop or tablet, it will work just fine. Other than that, we have a way of having the notifications. So let's say a user has set a certain amount. So if that budget is exceeded, so the user will receive the email notification and they will be able to take an action accordingly. But one of the important thing about this application, it contains one more interesting feature, which is AI. So we are going to see on how we can integrate artificial intelligence into our application, and it will help us to make pure decision to our users. So for example, when the user is about to create their budget, so the AI will track the history of how they spend their previous 3 months budgets, and then it will suggest a likely good budget amount. So that is the important thing that we are going to see on this application. So without further ado, let's see what we have into our application. Alright, so what you see here, this is our landing page of our application. And as you can see, we have this top bar, which have some of the actions or navigation links where the user can go to see the features. They can see how it works, the pricing, login, and get started. But this pricing and how it works, these two sections have not added it, but you can add them if you want, because for now the application is not a software as a service, so I didn't add the pricing for this application. So the user can be able to log in or get started. So that when they click here, they will be redirected to the registration, and here they will be directed to the login page. Down here you can see we have this beautiful hero section with the text on the left side with the statistics, but on the right side we have the beautiful animation of this particular card, which shows like insight of what we are going to have into our application. And down here you can see we have the section which shows the features that we have into our application that I've already shown you. Down here we have another section which shows the technologies that used to create this application. Down here we have another section that shows the user they can start their free trial or view the demo. So here you can replace with anything that you want. And at the end we have a footer which shows the quick links and other important things that the user will find into our application. So without further ado, let's go direct and log in, because I've already created a demo user. So when they click get started, they will be directed to the registration page. So here is when you are going to register your user here. But because I have a demo user, so let's go to the login and let's log in with the user. So let's put the email and password. And this is our dashboard that we have been redirected to. And as you can see from here, this is a text message that will be shown to the user. So welcome back, and then the name of the user that has been logged in. Down here you can see we have this 4 beautiful statistics card which shows the total spent amount, and it says if the amount is still under the budget or not. Here we have the monthly budget that is currently there, and it shows the percentage of the progress or the percentage left. So after that we have the categories, means how you are categorizing your budget or spending, which we are talking about the expenses itself. Okay, and after that we have this another card which shows the number of recurring expenses that you have set up into your application. And up here on the right top corner you see we have this is the way of navigating from one month to another month. So for example, now we are on October as I'm recording this video, the October of 2025, but I can navigate back, let's say, to September. So you can see this is September, and you can see the details has changed here. So this is the way that you can control the details of this dashboard. Let me go back to October. Okay, you can see this is October. And down here you see we have the 6-month spending trend, which we have shown it through the chart, and this is the line chart that we are going to add ourselves into this application. After that we have the spending by category. So here it shows on how each category has their spend or the expenses and the amount, as you can see. After that we have the top spending categories with the amount, so you can see, and the percentage itself that they accumulate. And after that we have the recent expenses. So here you just see the recent expenses that you have done, and down here we have the quick actions that you can use. So for example, we have the one for adding expense, recurring, and categories. And after that the user is able to manage their expenses from here: budget, recurring expense, categories, and notification preference. And down here we have a way of managing our profile from settings, which is coming with the Livewire starter kit. So I'm going to show you how to manage that. But for now, let's see on how you can add the expenses. So on expenses page, you see here we have a way of adding a new expense. So without I go, let me change this, let's say, to another, let's say a white theme, so that we can see everything clearly. So let me go back to the expenses, and from here you can see, so we have these filters, and from these filters you can be able to switch between let's say categories. You can search, you can change the date. So you can see this is 1 month filter, so it's the filter only for the current month that you have. So now it is on October, that's why you see this date range from the 1st of October to the last date of that particular month. And down here you see we have a way of paginating our data for performance. We have a way of editing and deleting these expenses. We have the date that expense happened, the categories, title, and their description, without forgetting their particular amounts. So after that, the user can be able to switch between these. So you see, for example, you will see the categories for education. You see you can switch between this one, but we are going to see all of this as we continue with the video. So you have a way of creating a new expense from here, and the form will be opened like this one, and you will be able to add the name of the expense, the amount, the date, the category that you are doing, the description if you want, which is optional, but there is option to create a new category if you don't see the category here. But also down here we have a way of switching between the two types of expenses, if it is just a single time expense or it's a recurring expense. And when you switch to recurring, there is a field that will happen here. So you see this field will be shown which means when you switch back to one time, it will be hidden. So when you go to recurring, it will ask you so that frequency, on which frequency actually that expense will be occurring. Okay, so you to check that if it is daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly, and then you will be able to switch between these dates. So you can just update this date if you want, and you will just add the start and the end date if it applies. Okay, so this is just a note, and after that you can be able to create it by clicking here. So now, because we didn't add anything, so you can see the validations. So if you click there, so basically you will see the validations for the required field to be added. Okay, and after that, when you add this expense, means it is going to affect the budget that you have created. So basically on budgets, let's navigate to the budget. Here you see on budget, and basically you can navigate between the budgets of different months as we've seen on the dashboard. But here you have the overall budget summary, means all the budgets that you have on your system, which belongs to you as the user that has logged in. You will see it here, the amount that you have spent, the remaining amount, and the usage percentage. So this will be a progress bar that will be tracking the amount that you have spent. Here you have a way of creating a new budget, and here you have the budget by their categories. So we have the overall budget that you can create, and also we have the category-wise budgets. So for example, this is the overall, and this one is the educational budget. Okay, and basically these cards we are going to see on how we will create them. Here the user have the options to edit, delete, or perform any of that actions. So let's try to create a new budget, and here is where we are going to see the feature of AI. Basically, when you visit this page of creating a new budget, it will give you the suggestion of the month, because it will see on which month or date that you have. So currently I'm on October, as I've mentioned, so that's why you see the suggested month is October. Okay, and the year automatically will be populated. And here on the budget category, you are supposed to select, if you don't want to create an overall budget, so you have to select the category that you want to create that budget for. Okay, and after that you will be able to add their amount. Okay, and down here there is budget tips, so these tips you will go by yourself, and there is budget examples down here, which is like recommendations or suggestion for your users. But the AI, basically what it happen is when, let's say, you switch between these categories. For example, if I go to the education, and if you don't see the suggestion for the AI, means on education you don't have enough history for the AI to be able to suggest to you the correct amount. So let's go to the food and dining. That is not, let's say, to entertainment. Okay, and yeah, so now means I've added some of the history data. So now means, for example, if I click this one, so you see I have this button which says get AI suggestion, and if I switch between these categories, you see, so based on that category, so automatically Laravel will track if that selected category has enough data for the AI to give you suggestion. So if it does not, like this one on education, you see we don't see that button for AI suggestion. But if we go, let's say, to food and dining, you see, so this one has enough history, and that's why you see this button has been shown. So now if I click this button, AI should take some time to create the let's say to generate a suggestion, and then it will show us here. So let's click that and see the magic. So now it is analyzing. Yep, and you can see down here it has added this new AI generated recommendations, and you can see the confidence is high, and the AI recommendations, so we have this one, conservative, we have the recommended one, and the comfortable one. So AI gives you the three suggestions or recommendations, and it will give you the one which is in between of those two, like the one which it recommended mostly. So you can see, and it will give you why this amount, so why to this one. So it will say the average spending over the last 3 months is this one, and there's a slight downward trend, setting the recommended budget slightly above the average gives you a caution while still encouraging continuing reduction in spending. So basically this is AI generated information, and you have to be very careful. So basically what we've done here is just to give you the feeling of how you can integrate and use or utilize the powerful feature of AI, including with TALStack development. Okay, so for now the user is able to use any of these three suggested amount. So for example, if I click this one, so you should be able to see it here, and after that the user can be able to save this one, so create budget, and they can change. Actually they can decide to use this one or this one, so all of that will be auto-populated there. So for now let's go with this one, and after that let's click create budget, and now you see the budget has been created. You see, so this is the budget, and basically means we have some of the expenses basing on this particular category. That's why you see already we have this progress on this particular category. So basically this is how easy you can just do that. You can edit the budget, so this is how you can edit it, and on edit you don't see the AI suggestion, and now we have a way of also managing the recurring expenses, as I've mentioned. So this is where you're going to manage the recurring expenses. For example, for let's say Netflix subscription, rent payment, and you can see the start, and we don't have the end, so means it will be just automatically generated until when you will stop it by giving the ending date. Okay, and after that the user can be able also to update these details, like changing this data, and basically these are just the expenses but with this typo checked. Okay, so after that we have categories. So these categories is where we're going to manage the categories. So you can see from here we have the list of categories that we have already created, and from here is the form of how you're going to create the category. So for example, if you add a new category like personal health, or just personal care, something like that, and you can change the color to this one, and you can see this is the preview of that category. So if you change that one, let's say to this one, to this one, or this one, so this is the preview, and when you create it, it will be created automatically, and down here you see it, and you have a way to delete it and edit. But on delete, you see this option is available because it doesn't have any expenses on it. But for this one, let's say it has 3 expenses, you are not able to delete this particular category. So here I can be able to delete this one, see, so that it has been deleted, and I can be able to edit any of these. So for example, if I click this one, so it will be populated here automatically, and I can be able to change that, and then I can click the update here. So we are going to see on how to add all of this information and how to implement this application from scratch. So after that, I think for the demo this is enough. So let's dive into our coding session. So we are going to start with setting up our environment, and then after that we'll dive into coding session. Yeah, so before we go forward, if you are new to the channel, consider to subscribe. So this is my channel. If you you are not one of these subscribers, so consider to click the subscribe button, so like my videos and share with others. But also you can get a 20% discount from Hostinger when you buy any plan by using this referral link, which I'll pin it in video description and even in comment, so that you guys can be able to support me through that link. Okay, and at the end of this video, as I've mentioned, we are going to use Hostinger as our testing server. So we are going to see on how you can deploy this application into the live server and how users can access your application. So this application is completely open source, so you can just clone the application, you can fork it, and you can be able to use it as the way that you want. So the main target of why I created this video is just to showcase how powerful TalStack can be. So, and this is the right channel that you have. So here we are just focusing on building the real world application. So we are building the full stack application, and let's go direct and start to see what we need in order to build the application. So the first thing you need in your system is to support the Laravel development. Means you need to follow this documentation on here when you can be able to create the Laravel application. So basically, before you create the Laravel application, you need to make sure that your local machine has PHP Composer and the Laravel installer installed. In addition to that, you need to have Node, and this I'm going to show you on how you can add all of this. Okay, and after that, you need to install the Laravel installer. After that, this is when we will start to build the application. And the alternative to this one, you can also use Laravel hard, because this is the the graphical PHP installation and management experience application. So basically, I'm going to use that for this particular video. So here is Laravel hard, which I've already started it, and this is when we are going to start to use it. So before that, this application, as I've mentioned, we built it by using Laravel and Livewire. Also, we have Tailwind CSS and Alpine.js, but Alpine.js already come with Livewire. So the moment you install Livewire into a Laravel application, you will have access to Alpine.js. And after that, we have Tailwind CSS, which already comes with a Laravel application. And so what we lack is just a Node. So you just need to go and download Node.js if you don't have it in your system. So let's go to the Node, and make sure that you go to get Node, and from here you can install it or download it based on your OS, actually the operating system that you use. So basically I'm using Windows, so I'll just install it by clicking this one. So I'll click that, and it will start to download the Node for my system. And after that, the other thing that we are going to use in this application, we need to use this Google Gemini PHP Laravel official package, which will help us to integrate the powerful features of Gemini AI into our application. And after that, we are going to use the Google AI Studio, which will give us access to the Gemini by giving us the API keys. So we're going to see on how you can create your API keys that will help us to interact with the Google Gemini APIs. Okay, and after that, you need to have a way of storing data. So we are going to use dump as a database. So we're just going to utilize it for basically because it gives us PHP, it gives us Apache as a local development server, but the main target in here is to get the database for our development. And after that, this application you need to install because now it is ready. So just follow the instruction of installing Node.js if you have never done it before. So just do it. So currently on my system already I have Node, and already I've installed the Laravel hard. Okay, and after that we need to have XAMPP installed, because here is when you will get XAMPP. So just click here and it will direct you to this page where it will start to install Laravel XAMPP basically to download it and it will install it, and after that you'll be in a good shape to start building our application. Yeah, so basically let's navigate here, and from htdocs let's create a new application by using the git bash, but you can use a cmd if you want. So I'll use git bash. So from git bash here, let me zoom a little bit. So we are going to run the following command. So Laravel new, and then let's give the name of the application to expense tracking app, and after clicking enter, this will give you the option to select the starter kit that you want. And if you don't see these options, means you have not installed the Laravel installer. So basically follow these instructions as I've mentioned. So follow these instructions, and after that let's use the Livewire starter kit. So Livewire, and after that we are going to use the Laravel built-in authentication, and we are not going to use the Laravel Vault, so let's give it a no, and I'm going to stick with PHP unit. And after that, this will start to build, like to create our Laravel application into this directory where we have mentioned it. So you see, this is the application that has been started to be created. So I'll pause the video, and when this will be done, I'll continue with my video. After that, we have this option to install npm, which is Node package management, and to run the npm run build. So let's click yes. And after that, after this has been installed, we will start to build the application from scratch. Okay, and now this is done. So let's navigate to this particular project. So let's go to change directory, then expense tracking app, and then let's open it in our VS Code. Okay, so here we have opened it in our VS Code, and let me close this one. So let me trust this directory, and let me zoom a little bit so that you can see what I'll be doing here. Alright, and now as our application has already been created, let me delete this GitHub tests. So let me remove it, so that when I'll push it in on GitHub, it will not give the failures because the application is still in development. Okay, and after that, now the first thing will be to run the application and see it running. So here let's run PHP artisan save. Okay, so the application is running on this link. So let's open it in our browser. Yep, and now the application is up and running, and as you can see, this is our application. We can be able to register the user. So this is a form for registration. So let's create a random user. So let me change this one to password. Okay, and let's create an account. So this will direct us to the dashboard. And this is our dashboard of our application. The user can be able to navigate to the settings, and that's when we can be able to change different settings or profile. And from here you can see we can be able to update the name, the email, and also the user can be able to delete the account, but also they can be able to change their passwords, means from changing from the current to the new password. Also, they can change the appearance of the application. As currently you see, we are on the light mode, but you can switch that to the dark mode. Like you can switch like this one, you see. And also the user can be able to enable the two-factor authentication. So if you have never visited my channel, I have already explained about how you can enable the two-factor authentication with this particular video. So navigate to that video, which I've already added the video on the video description, so that you can be able to see on how you can enable this one. So the first step, you need to pass the password here for the confirmation, and after that you will be directed to the page where you can enable the two-factor authentication. Yeah, here. So by default it is disabled. So when you enable this one, you need to enable it and use it as you want. Okay. So for now, let me just go back here, and the next step will be to set up our database so that we can start to build the application. So let's go back here. Let's add a new terminal. So from here, we are going to create the following models and their migration. So PHP @make model. Then we are going to have the category model, but I want its migration, so I'll give the flag of -m, which will create the model class and its migration. And after that, I need the budget model, and I need the one for expense. Okay, after that, let me clear the terminal and let me go back here. So here we see we have new three models that have been added, and also we have three migration that have been added. So the one for the category, we have another one for budget, and another one for expenses. So now let's start to edit the models, the migration first, and then we'll edit the models. So on migrations, let's start with the categories, and here on the categories, we're going to have the following. So the first one will be the name of the category. Then we are going to have so let's have the other one for, this one should be for the color, because as I've shown you on the demo, we are going to see on how you can manage the colors. Okay, so here on the default, we are going to have the following color. So let me just paste it. Okay, and after that, you can have the icon if you want. So let's say table icon, and this should be nullable. Okay, and after that, we need to track this let's say category has been created by which user. So here we're just going to use the foreign ID, and here we're going to say user then ID. So this will constrain itself to users table. Okay, so this is done for the categories. Now let's go to the one for budget. So on budget, we are going to have the following fields. So let me paste them here. So the first field will be to store the foreign key for the user. So this budget belongs to which user. And after that, we are going to see on how you can have a relationship between the budget and the category. So means this helps you to categorize or to organize the budgets, so that you can know that this budget is intended for which category. So also we have the field which stores the amount of that particular budget, then the month of that budget, and the year for that particular budget. And after that, for performance, when you are accessing these fields, so you can add the index for that. So you can just say let's have the unique field here, which will help us to identify that this budget is unique from the other one, so that when users are creating the budget, they cannot recreate the same budget again. Okay, and after that, now let's update the expense table, which is this one. And on expense, we are going to have the following fields. So let me update it here. And on expenses, we are going to have the user ID, which will be a foreign key as we have on budget. Also the category ID, as I've explained. And here also we are going to have a field that stores the amount, which is in decimal. And here the number of digits, and also the number of decimal places. Here we are going to have the title of that particular expense. Then we are going to have the description, which will be nullable by default, and we are going to have the date field when that expense was happening, and make sure that this is on date type of column. And we have an enum field which stores the type of expense, which we are going to have the one-time expense and the recurring one. So by default it will be one time. After that, we are going to have the fields that are useful when you are doing the recurring expenses. So on recurring expenses, we have an enum field which stores the recurring frequency, which can be daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly, which help us to control on how the user can store this data. So it's just a matter of selecting from these options that we have already predefined them. Okay. After that, we are going to store the recurring start date, when that recurring expense start, and when it will end. Okay, so make sure that all of these are in date format. After that, we are going to have this foreign key, which will store the parent expense ID, and this will help when you are doing the recurring expense. Means if you already have one expense, so all of the next expenses will fall as the child of that the first expense. Okay, I'm going to show you and you will understand this thoroughly. And after that, we have this field, which is a Boolean field with check if this particular expense is auto generated. And this will help us to track for all the recurring expenses, because some of them will generate them automatically, so they will be generated by the system as we have planned to do. And after that, we have the timestamps, which will help to create the created art and the updated art. But here we have the other field which enables the soft delete, which means it will add the deleted art field. So this will help us to let's say to implement the soft delete functionality into our expenses. And down here we have the indexes, as I've mentioned. So this will help us to update or to help in optimization of our data. So when you are accessing this type of fields, so they will help you to be fetched or easily, rather than going through all the data. Okay, and after that, now it's a time for migrating these created migrations, so that we can create the tables. So before we do, let's update the configuration for our database and our application. So the first thing will be to change the name of the application. So this is expense app. Okay, and after that, we need to change the database connection. So we are going to use the MySQL database. So change that and enable these ones, and this will be expense DB. Okay, so my database has no any password or any restriction, so I'll just leave it this way. And after that, we are going to need to update these email configurations, because I'm going to show you on how you can update the emails. So here, let's update that with the following credentials. Okay, and this password actually I'll delete it at the end of the tutorial, so that you cannot access it and utilize my email. Okay, So you just need to change this to your particular email. So just put the name, the email as the username, the password that is auto-generated from Google. So to do that, just navigate to Google and go to manage your Google account. And from here, just search for app password. And enter your password. Okay, and after that, just give the name of the password. And after that, when you click create, you will get a password like this one. And that's when you are going to be able to use it into your Laravel application. Provide other required configurations, and after that, we are going to have a full working application. So for now, that's fine. And now let's migrate our tables. So PHP adds an migrate. So this will ask you if you want to create that database. So let's say yes. Okay, and after that, now you can be able to check the tables that you have created. So you can use the shell command if you are comfortable with that. So here is just a matter of logging into MySQL, and then you can just say MySQL, then the username is root, and because I don't have a password, I can just leave it that way. And from here, I can say show databases, and you can see from here we have the database that we have created, which is expense.db, and currently you can say use expense_db, and now you can say show tables, and you can see all the tables that we have created. The one for budgets, categories, and expenses have been added. So the rest is the default database or tables that comes with the Laravel. Okay, so after that, if you are not comfortable with the command line, so let's navigate to the admin dashboard, where you can see the PHP my admin, and from here you can manage the database from the UI, which is actually simple than using the command line. Okay, so now into our application, the next step will be to update the models to make sure that they use all the necessary things that we need. So now for the category, let's update the category model. So on category model, we are going to have the following things. So basically, we need to have the fillable attribute, which help in mass assignment of your model. So just mention the field that you have in your database migrations. So make sure that they compromise with this one. Okay, so make sure that they are the same. Okay, and after that, we need to have the relationships that will help us to track the details for the budget, user, expense, and budget. Okay, so let's import these classes, and this one has many. Okay, so this first relationship shows the relationship between the category and the user, so that we can know that the particular user is the one that belongs to this or is the one that created this particular category. So that's why we are using the belongs to relationship, which can be a one-to-one or one-to-many. Okay, and after that, we are going to have the expenses, which is one-to-many. So basically, this will just show the relationship between the category and the belonging expenses. This is we are going to see on how to utilize this one when we were seeing the delete functionality of category. Some of the categories were not able to be deleted. Why? Because these expenses were not null. Okay, and after that, we have the relationship to budgets. So one category can have more than one budgets. Okay, and after that, now we need to have a helper method which will help to get the total spent for that particular month. So let's add this particular helper method here. So this helper method will accept two parameters, the one for month and the other one for the year. And from here, we're going to get the expenses, and then we're going to run this where statements. So for the first one, we'll check for the month, and the second one will check for the year. And all of that, if they are true, means we are going to get the sum of those expenses, and then we are going to return to this particular method. I'm going to show you how to utilize that one. So after that, now let's update the budget one. So let's update the budget model. So on here, we need also to have the following fillable parameter or property or attribute. So this will also should make sure that they comply with these particular fields that you have here. Okay, so let's do that. And from here, make sure that these are the fields. And down here, we need to have the cast. We need to cast these fields so that the user cannot add data that don't align with the type of data that we have defined in our database. So for the amount, we need to make sure that it is in decimal, and the password, the decimal places in 2. And then for the month, it is an integer, and for the year, it is an integer. And after that, let's define the relationships. So we have the relationships between the budget and the user, but also we have the relationship between the budget and the category. And this, all of these belongs to, means they are one-to-many or one-to-one. Okay, and after that, we need to have the following helper methods. So let's define the following helper methods, which will help to utilize the database good. So here we have this method which is called get spent amount, and which will return a float value. And here we are just going to check if the category ID that has been passed in this particular budget, if it is there, means we are going to return the following method. So this method will just call this method, which will be available in our category model. As we know, we have already defined this method. So if you go back to the category, you see we have this method which is called the get total spent month. So this is the method, and here it will get the month and the year. Okay, and after that, if this is not true, we are just going to return the expense for the user, and we are going to get for the particular month and year that has been passed, and then we are going to get the sum of it. Okay, so this is the default method which acts as a fallback, but if you have the category, means we are going to get the spent month basing on that particular category. Okay, after that, we have the method which will help us to get the remaining amount by getting the amount that you have, and then you get the spent amount. So means this will be from the budget, and then we need to get the spent amount, which will be defined here. You see, so this is the get spent amount which will be generated out of here. Okay, so by taking the total amount of that particular budget and minus or subtracting it by the spent amount, you will get the remaining amount. And we have seen so many places this is useful, so we are going to use that, and I'll show you that. And after that, we need to get the percentage of that spent amount. So this is how we are going to calculate it, and we're just using the spent amount divided by the total amount and times by or multiplied by 100. Okay, and after that, we need to get we need to check actually, because this will turn the boolean value. So we're going to check if the spent amount is over the budget. So if it exceeds the budget, this will turn it true, and if it's not like that, it will turn false. Okay, after that, we need to update the expense model. And on expense model, we have the following attribute. Basically, we need to use this attribute because on expenses, we have used the soft delete. So make sure that you import this one. So use that as a trait. Okay, And after that, we need to have the fillable attribute. So let's add the fillable attribute, which complies with our fields on our database, or the columns from the database. Okay, so we have the user ID up to is auto generated. Okay, after that, let's add the cast. Okay, so this is a way of make sure that you are protecting the type of data that are coming into the database. Okay, and after that, let's define the following relationships. So let's define the relationships here. So let me import this. Okay, as many. Yep. Okay, so we have the relationship between an expense and the user that has created that particular expense. We have the relationship between the expense and the category. So in which category does this expense fall? And also we have the parent expense and the child expenses. So the parent expense that will be useful when we are doing the recurring expenses, and I'm going to show you why this is important. Okay, and after that, we need to have the following local scope into our model. So let's define these following scopes. Okay, so the following scopes we are going to have in order to get the data that we need. For example, if you need to get the all the expense that has been performed by a particular user, so just call this for user, and basically it will give you all the particular expenses belongs to that particular user. So this is the ordinary way of defining a scope, but the new way is using the attribute. So you can just say something like this, and then here you can just say scope, and make sure you have imported this one. And after that, you can be able to remove this one. For example, you can remove this already scope like this one, and here you can say, let's say, for user. Okay, so this is the new way of defining the scope, but I'll just stick to this one so that we can be a little bit quick and finish our application. So this is the way of defining a scope. So it will be the same way for recurring, so you can just check for the type. It will be the same way for one time. It will check the type if it is one time or it's recurring. And if you want to get all the expenses in a certain month, so this is the way of getting it. Similar way to if you want to get all the expenses in a scope date range. Okay, and after that, we need to have the following helper methods. So let's define the helper method like this one. So basically, we need to see if this particular expense is recurring. So this is the method that we are going to use. So if the type is recurring, we are going to return it true, and if it's not, it will be false. Okay, and after that, we are going to see if we can be able to generate the next occurrence of that particular recurring expense. So here we're going to check if it is recurring, which we've already defined here. And if it is not, we are going to return false. If the recurring end date and now is after the recurring end date, means the recurring end date is already after the now or the date, so means we are going to return false, so that because already the recurring expense should be stopped. And if all of these two conditions were not met, means we are going to return it true, and we are going to be able to generate the next occurrence of that recurring expense. And after that, let's have another method which will help you to get the next occurrence date. Okay, so this is the method which says get next occurrence date, which return an instance of carbon. So here we are going to check if this is recurring. So if it is recurring, yeah, we are going to skip this one, but if it's not, we are going to return null. And we are going to check the last child expense that was generated, and that is coming from this one. As I've mentioned, we are going to use that from here. Okay, and after that, we are going to get the first child. Okay, and we are going to order them by date, and then we are going to descend them. So basically, we are going to get the latest one Okay, so instead of using this one, you can just say here latest. Okay, and by using the latest, you are going to get the same results. Okay, so that is one way of doing it. And after that, we are going to get the base date, means the date that this was started. And from here, we are going to check if the last child is there, so means we're going to get the date. But if it's not there, means we're going to get the start date. And after that, we're going to run this match function, and it will be checking if the recurring frequency is equals to daily, means it is going to add 1 day to the base date. Okay, so if it is weekly, it is going to add 1 week. If it is monthly, it's going to add the 1 month. If it's yearly, it is going to add a year. Okay, and that's a way we are going to get the next occurrence date. So now we are done with the models. So the next step will be to start to build the application. So because already we have installed the Livewire starter kit, so means now already Livewire is installed and Livewire Flux is already there. That's why we can see our application with this particular view, because this sidebar is coming from the Livewire starter kit, which uses the Flux. Okay, so the Flux UI is the one that powers our application. So the next step will be to start to build the application components. So we're going to start to build each of the components from the Livewire and build the application step by step. So for now, I want to say thank you, because I'm going to see you on the next session. And basically, I'm going to build this application by giving out the episodes, because currently I'm a little bit occupied. So you guys will bear with me, because I'll be posting this in step by step, because I can't like produce it all because I'm a little bit occupied. So see you on the next video, where I'll be continuing with our Livewire starter kit. So see you.